How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly here. We're going to be no guests today, so we'll just be taking your phone calls and your emails. Brian, how was your weekend?
I've been better. I don't think it was as bad as your weekend, but it was quite a weekend.
My weekend wasn't bad. Just a bunch of technical.
Just no email and no phone.
Hey, that was actually a blessing. I had a great day yesterday.
What was up with the phone? I understand email because it happens to us all the time, but just the phone went down?
I have no idea what went wrong with the phone. It just died, and then the phone company's really interesting because I called them up.
They're no help whatsoever.
Well, actually, they were. It's kind of funny. I called them up and said, my phone's not working, and they said, let's check.
How are you calling us?
And I said, with the other phone, and they said that. You're right. Your phone's not working. But we cannot send a repairman out until Tuesday at noon. And I go, that's really great. Can I have like all the phone calls forwarded to another line? And they go, well, you can do that Monday morning, but you can't do that until Monday morning. So I go, okay. So I don't have I'm not going to get any phone calls on Sunday. No big deal. So anyway, first thing Monday morning, a repairman comes and fixes it. And since then, another repairman has come and fixed it. And tomorrow, I'm assuming that a third one is going to come, except it's been already fixed. So it was very... Actually, that's like the opposite of what I expected. So
at least it got fixed.
It's fixed, so that's cool. Let's see. What was wrong with your weekend?
I'm just all stuffed up. My nose is all stuffed up. Feel kind of sick. And I suffered through 2 hours of The Mummy Returns. And
tell me about it, because I did not watch it. My
don't go. Actually, hey, if you want to bring the 13-year-old brother, go ahead and bring him, because I'm sure he'd enjoy it. And I don't see like a lot of big budget action movies, but I would actually think that this probably wasn't any more or less stupid than any other big budget action movie, but it was pretty hokey. And The Rock's in there at the very beginning, and he actually does have a speaking role, but he speaks Egyptian, so I don't know if he can get an SAG card off that, but he's in there. And then they use him at the end of the movie, and he's this creature. So they use his head and this creature's body. But the thing is, they don't even use Rock's real head. They actually computer generate his head as well. And so it was just like, the entire movie was... It was like a bunch of kids in 7th grade in computer graphics class that figured out that they could do all these cool things with the computer, and that's what this entire movie was. It was so hokey, and I had to sit through it, and I never thought I would try and plug a newsletter with a movie review. But there's a very detailed movie review in this week's newsletter. No Foley is good review, but you're going to get a movie review, so that's that.
Well, in my newsletter, there is a Foley is good review, and it's probably the most detailed review of that book that's going to be anywhere based on... I've actually been reading some reviews of the book, and, God, they're just so, I don't know. They're just like, wow, that book is just so awesome. Shallow, that's the word. Yeah, shallow. Okay, anyway. Oh, we got some more of this stuff here. My girlfriend's 18-year-old brother went to see The Mummy Returns, I think, on Friday night, and came back and just goes, don't go. And I go, really?
Well, there you go.
Goes, no. He just goes, don't go, it's stupid. And he's 18 years old. He just goes, don't go. And he goes, you don't need to go. He goes, there's nothing that The Rock does that you need to see. And that was that. I'll probably end up seeing it.
Up to about 14, I think he'll enjoy the movie. Okay. But after that, I don't know. If you want some popcorn and some bonbons and just waste 2 hours, go see it, but... Otherwise, do something else with your time. Go bowling.
Okay. Hey, Hey, did you hear anything about how they drew for Piper's show the other night?
I didn't hear anything about how well they drew. I think I got results somewhere, but I didn't get like a
I've got a bunch of reports. I'm just wondering if they drew any fans or not, because a lot of people were expecting they'd draw okay for that.
My prediction, just because I've looked at just tons of results with guys that were in ECW like 3 months ago, and the attendance is horrible. I would guess that they didn't. But the only reason I would think that I might do okay is because it's Oregon, and they don't get any big names there. So
it's Oregon, and it's Roddy Piper.
Yeah. I don't know what exactly that means, but.
And I don't know what Josh Wilcox means at the university, but there was a point that it's been a couple of years since he's played there. So, but they put him over at the end, getting to throw out Kurt Hennig since he was the local guy. Brian, you got to see the main event from the Fukuoka Dome from last weekend. I got to tell you that you've got to see it, and you've got to give me your opinion of it, because it is like.
So it really is as bad as they said, and it's not just like a bad show, and hopefully the main event will save it, and it doesn't.
Actually, I thought that going into the final two matches, I thought it was a pretty good show. I actually watched it with a couple of friends that are not really Japanese wrestling fans, and they were like enjoying the whole show. And then the Yuji Nagata Rainy Martinez match was terrible, but everyone, it was only 2.5 minutes, and it was no.
How horrible could it be in 2.5 minutes?
Yeah, it was no more terrible than I was led to believe. But then the main event comes on, and I think the thing that makes the main event so bad is that the entire show, all they do is build up the main event, and it's just built up like it's this legend coming back, going against the top guy of now. And, it's just so well built. Obviously, it was built up well because they had 29.5 million people watching that show, which is a hell of a number in a country the size of Japan. So, the build-up was so awesome. They were showing, and it's weird because they showed clips of Choshu from, 74. And, here it is, 2001, so it's 27 years ago. And it's pretty hard to, not have a guy look really old when you're showing clips of him from 74. So he comes out there, and he's looking just old, and, so you get this great big build-up. Obviously, the match is over like crazy because, so many people are watching it. And then, the match, it's just nothing happens. And what it is that, Ogawa and Murakami they just don't cooperate. You gotta watch the tape and see it. It's just it's the most unprofessional match that I've ever seen, and I'm thinking it's the biggest match.
So it's one of those problems.
That's what it was. That's the whole problem. They just wouldn't cooperate. It's the biggest match of the year, and you go in there, and two guys just don't want to, are just out there to show the other two guys up, and it's just who, and obviously they were told to do it. And I'm just thinking who is the mastermind? And I'm figuring it's probably Inoki. Who, well, because who can think so ridiculous as to let's ruin a match to make it look real, other than Inoki, and that's exactly what he did. Oh, it was so bad. So anyway,
that's something to look forward to then.
Yes, absolutely. It's you have to see it. Why don't you? Now, you saw the Perry Saturn match with Mike Bell. What did you think of that?
I saw Saturn and Mike Bell, and I got to tell you, in fact, we talked about this yesterday. I watched it so many times because I got a whole bunch of emails first from people saying this was the most unprofessional thing ever. This was straight out of Rick Steiner and Kiwi or whatever, and it's just hideous. Saturn should be fired, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, wow, this must be a hell of a beating. So anyway, I watched the match, and what basically happened was Mike Bell dropped down, and he was going to give Saturn a hip toss and an arm drag. And the hip toss looked just fine, and the arm drag looked screwed up. But it wasn't complete. In fact, it looked more like Saturn didn't know what was going on, and he was going to take a hip toss, and he took an arm drag, etc., or whatever, but, he landed kind of funny. And he jumps right up and just pounds Mike Bell into the corner, punches and kicks, and then he throws him outside, and Mike Bell lands pretty much right on his head. It was more like his neck and his shoulders, landed on the ground, just looked totally brutal. And I think that's what everybody saw, and you could hear the whole audience gasp and everything like that, and I think that's the thing that told everybody that this was really horrible and Saturn should be fired. But when I watched this thing probably 15 times, just over and over again. And it wasn't really like Saturn threw this guy out of the ring harder than he would throw anybody else out of the ring. It looked like a worked throw out of the ring, and Mike Bell just landed wrong. And then Saturn picked him up, kind of like in a bear hug, and he rammed him back first into the ring steps. And I can't even remember the last time I've seen anybody do this. It was really unorthodox, and I think that's why everybody thought that it looked so brutal. But through this entire thing, Mike Bell wasn't fighting back in any way. He was selling everything like it was a total pro wrestling match, like there was absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. And then, they pretty much went back to normal. Saturn hung him upside down. But it was like Saturn would lift him up for something, and he'd go up for it, and Saturn would ram him back first into the steps, and he would grab his back in pain. It was just total pro wrestling. And I watched it so many times, I just thought, this might be something, but I would not even be the least bit surprised if this was all some sort of WCW-style angle. And, part of me was thinking, why would WWF work the boys? And,
Well, no. There's
no point to it.
But this one wasn't it.
I'm pretty sure that Saturn got a little rough on this guy, but it wasn't I wouldn't even say it was anything near what happened with Conan and Rick Steiner. That was something completely, totally different, but that was just my take on it.
Okay, he's going to be back on TV tonight. In fact, tonight, let's see, this is the matches that we got. Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho against Edge and Christian. Hardy's against Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko. Test and the APA take on The Big Show and The Right to Censor. Oh, God.
Wow.
Oh, God. And Lita and Chyna as a tag team, and then I don't know what else. Hopefully before the end of the show, maybe we'll hear a main event or something.
Does Right to Censor have the longest breakup angle in the history of wrestling yet? I'm still waiting for it to happen. I'm begging for it to happen.
The Varsity Club had one forever. Remember, this was like 12 years ago. But I don't know. Let's see. Undertaker is, I think Undertaker's a TV. Nothing else new there. The July 22nd pay-per-view for WWF is, in fact, going to be called Invasion and not fully loaded. And there will be WCW talent appearing in some form or fashion on that card. So, anyway.
An invasion.
There will be the invasion. Yes, in fact, there will. The Mummy's estimate for the weekend was $32 million. So
which I find completely appalling.
So it's $116.5 million after 10 days were the estimate. I haven't seen the morning numbers. This was yesterday, so it was an estimate of what they were going to do on Sunday, so that number may be off slightly. But probably isn't off all that much. And what else is going on here?
God, I saw like so many reviews on all these websites, and the websites that they were on had these polls asking fans, what do you think of the movie? You know, out of 5 or whatever. And these polls were so high, I couldn't even understand it. It's like everybody loved this movie.
It's because the wrestlers in it, and you got to support wrestling.
No, this wasn't wrestling websites.
Oh,
these were mainstream websites. That's why I was so freaked out about it.
Oh, okay, no. Think about this one too, though. No, think about this one. What is the age of people that are on the web? And that's the movie. That's that target audience for that movie.
Probably right.
So, I mean, there you go. I mean, but it got great exit poll reviews. I mean, I remember after the first night, it was the review, from the people that left the building when they asked them. I mean, it did very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this is now. I don't know. This is our SmackDown poll for the weekend. What did you think of SmackDown? 5% excellent, 16% good, 20% average, 28% bad, 31% awful. I mean, there's a definite.
How can that be?
I know, because it wasn't that bad at all. But whatever.
There's some good wrestling and some funny skits. The main event stuff was horrible, but
yep.
I guess if one bad thing can bring a whole show down, then it was horrible.
Hogan and Universal are having their meeting today. This will be, according to Hogan, on Bubba the Love Sponge, and you know that's always accurate, the make or break meeting. So anyway.
Which means it's not.
Now, when I heard about it, I didn't hear it was the make or break meeting. I heard it was just the next meeting. So, who knows? Poll for today is, which of these styles do you think will produce the number 2 sports entertainment pay-per-view group next year? Lucha style. You know what? I didn't put is like WWF style. I should have. Someone copying WWF. But anyway, I put lucha style, extreme style, old style, which is like, like someone bringing
before
back old style.
1997.
Yeah. Real style, which is like UFC Pride, or E, nobody will be on pay-per-view next year but WWF. So that's the question for today. Any more news to get to before we start hitting emails? Got tons of emails.
That's not it.
No other big news. Totally quiet weekend, really.
Hey, is that WWE pay-per-view this weekend?
Sunday. Coming up Sunday,
21st?
Yes.
Oh, or 20th?
21st. Wow. 21st, right? Or 20th? I don't know.
20th.
It's whatever Sunday is. Yeah. Okay, so anyway. Yeah, so tonight we're going to have to figure out, get the rest of the card. We got, Lita.
That's going to be so tough because you just had a pay-per-view that didn't really light the world on fire with the main event, and now you're going with Undertaker Austin singles 3 weeks later.
This one, it's not going to do big business. And I'll tell you what, that last pay-per-view, you know how that one did? That's like a state secret.
Kind of like those XFL ratings at the end.
Yeah, well, so let's see. Now, we got Lita and Chyna, which, with each successive angle, you want to see less. Austin and Undertaker, which is Austin and Undertaker. I mean, there's no big. I tell you what, Steve Austin. By the way, did you get the Observer yet?
Yeah, I did.
Did you read the Steve Austin thing?
I've gotten to the results part. I haven't gotten any farther than that yet.
No, the stuff about Austin and the drawing power and everything?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's pretty scary.
It is.
Yeah. Steve
it's one of those things, though, where, their idea was, this guy has been a babyface for so long, let's turn him or whatever. But he was out a year. And who knows what happened in that year as far as new fans coming in, old fans leaving. He came back and he was fresh. And they had him for like 4, 5, 6 months, and they turned him. Because that was too early. Wasn't too late.
I mean, I understand that they wanted that big dramatic thing at Mania, which they got, and they wanted the idea that, Rock has a real top heel to chase, which he does when he comes back. But there's that interim period, which is now, and until The Rock comes back, it's pretty flat. Well, anyway, yeah, Austin and Undertaker. What else is on that show? Benoit and Angle, which I will presume that they will announce the stipulations tonight. I know that they were looking at doing a ladder match last week, and neither Benoit nor Angle wanted to do it. And also, I mean, I just like the idea of doing another ladder match. Just scares me to death because it's so WCW-ish. Anything that WWF does that copies what WCW did always scares me because it just, because what happened to WCW, I guess.
I think when you really look at like WCW's pattern of booking, their whole deal was, we'll give every straight match that you could imagine away for free on TV. And to make the pay-per-views mean something, we'll throw in some stupid stipulation. Feels like there was some stupid stipulation on every single pay-per-view. You never had a pay-per-view where it was just like a straight match for a main event.
The problem with that is, too, is if you look at the buy rates, it's like nobody bought them, so therefore maybe there was something wrong. It's like they, it's almost like that mentality. It's like a mentality of, okay, this is how you book wrestling. You give all the matches away for free. They're really lousy, but then you make a gimmick and the people buy the gimmick. Except you kill all the gimmicks and no one believes in the gimmicks, so no one's going to buy. So to react to that, you still do the same thing anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Never learning anything.
Yeah. This is, we're going to start some emails here. It's from Rob from London. I plan on buying some No Holds Barred tapes in the near future. I was wondering if you could recommend 1 or 2 tapes that I should first get as a new fan. I don't know. Pride 10's awfully good. Pride 9's awfully good. What UFC? The last couple of UFCs, most of them have been really good too, although they're not out on commercial tape yet. What is the likelihood of PG-13 going to WCW? Pretty much none, I would say. Do you think it's possible that Pat Patterson didn't know about the Montreal screw job? No. He was the one who suggested the spot. That was the finish. How could he have not known? Okay. This is from Robert Martin, who's asking the question. Anyway, here's the question. I heard there's a rumor that Shane McMahon and Rob Van Dam had a meeting.
He heard there was a rumor?
Yes. He
didn't actually hear the rumor. He heard a rumor about the rumor.
That there was a rumor, yeah. Is that true? Okay.
What was the rumor? I wasn't listening.
That Shane McMahon had a meeting with Rob Van Dam about joining WCW. Well, first of all, the guy who's in charge of the talent in WCW is Jim Ross, not Shane McMahon.
He's a double agent, that Jim Ross.
Yeah, and Jim Ross had a meeting with Rob Van Dam. The same day that we were in LA, he had the meeting with Rob Van Dam that day. The meeting went really well, and I think that both Rob Van Dam and Jim Ross expect that at some point very soon, Rob Van Dam will be signed by the WWF. And he may be sent to WCW. In fact, I would say probably would be sent to WCW. But not for sure. Those decisions have not been made, and he hasn't been signed yet, so they're not going to really make that decision until they got the signature. But, I strongly expect that Van Dam's going to be, in the fold, very, very soon. Second, with the lackluster storylines but great wrestling on WWF TV, I don't think the rest has been that great. Some of it's been pretty decent. What would you recommend they would do to spice things up? Ratings are stagnant, and would Vince take a chance on some of the WCW talent to help out, I suppose, like DDP or all these guys? I think that if you're going to do a WCW, which they are going to do at this point, you don't want to put those guys on WWF TV and get them in WWF storylines and then create a WCW afterwards. And they don't think that either, I don't think. Let's see. This is from Juan, who says, is K1 worked? It seems to me to be a shoot for the most part with worked aspects occasionally, like uneven matchmaking, like the last tournament, which seemed to exist only to get Jerome LeBanner over. Which, in fact, is what the last tournament was, and you're right. Also, it seems fighters may go easy sometimes. The last show saw Peter Arch and Ernesto Hoost not doing so well or being that aggressive against seemingly overmatched opponents. But I can tell you, the mentality of fighting and training for a fight is really, really hard. I don't think that if you've never done it, and I've never done it, but I've been around people who've done it. It's really hard, and the quality of your opponent reflects the quality of your training. If you are scared going into a fight, you will train your ass off. If you are not scared, you will not train nearly as hard, and then when you get into the fight, all of a sudden you're not as sharp.
You're shocked, and then you get scared.
And then you go, like, God damn, I don't ever want to do this again. So a lot of times, I mean, we've seen it in both Ultimate Fight, boxing. We saw it with Lennox Lewis in the last boxing match. When you're in there with an opponent that you do not take seriously and you don't train hard for, you're going to come out looking sluggish. You're going to and because you haven't trained as hard, you're going to get tired quicker. And on occasion, you're even going to get knocked out like Lennox Lewis did. So that's probably the thing, like why they're like that. Let me just let's finish this. In the finals last year, I thought Ernesto Hoost should have lost in the regulation. It was a draw and he won in overtime, although this could be a case of bad judging, which occurs in all combat sports. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. All sports have bad judging. That's not to say that K1 doesn't work. Now, I do believe strongly that there have been worked K1 fights, just like there have been worked fights in almost any form of fighting. But K1 is basically a shoot sport. I think some of the early stuff, I think that when it was first gaining popularity, they were doing things to create stars and there were a lot of things that happened when you look back on them where you just go, this isn't quite right. But now that it's established, there's really no need for it, I don't think, because it's so well established that I don't think they do it anymore. Anyway, it's a question I don't even know the answer to, and I should. It goes, before the Internet, how did you advertise your newsletter? I mean, I advertised in Wrestling World like Brian did, but occasionally in sporting news, but really I didn't advertise hardly at all. At that point, I just didn't have to.
A lot of Wrestling World.
Yeah, I mean, like the last several years. I guess since about 93 or 94, I advertised in Wrestling World. But in the 80s, I didn't really. I had the column in the National. That helped like an incredible amount actually. And this would have been in 90 and 91. Did
you get to plug in the National, like put your address at the end and everything?
No, they didn't, but I would take out ads in the National, and then when the National folded, was actually the biggest boost of readership, or one of the biggest. There was a real big boost in like 99. There was a huge boost, and then in what year was it? 92 there was. I mean, there have been different big boost periods. 97, yeah, when the National folded, I think I got a lot of interest from people who read that, and then when it went down, a lot of them became subscribers because they couldn't read the column anymore. So, I don't know. I guess that's the answer. Let's see. What's up with all these surveys going around trying to degrade wrestling and its fans?
It's the media.
That's like Jesse said.
They had a big conference and decided we're going to do some surveys to bury wrestling.
That's right. Okay, the first survey just happened to be a sports survey that wrestling was involved in, and wrestling fared very well. The last one was a survey of every single primetime television show, like 150 shows in all, and wrestling did really bad on that survey. I don't think that those people, like those groups, I mean, they didn't even give a crap about wrestling one way or the other. This is how the numbers came out. I mean, anyway, I think fans have shown that no matter how much we make, we still spend lots of money on what we love. Oh, no doubt about it. The sale of WF merchandise is strong, and so are ticket sales. It's just because we don't buy the other advertisers' bullshit. No, it's because the people who watch wrestling, by and large, do not, for better or for worse, earn the same income as the people who watch The West Wing, and therefore advertisers would rather advertise on The West Wing, and that's just what it is. I don't know. Is there anything to add up? It's just life. I know. Let's see. Which of the following has the best chance of happening? Hogan and Bischoff coming to the WWF for a run at the top. Pretty unlikely on that one.
I think we should read them all first.
Okay. Hunter legitimately elevating someone, or the XFL coming back for the next season. Hunter legitimately elevating someone. Just because the pressure will be on him and he will do it.
Yeah.
So that's. Or the WWF making their light heavyweight division a serious title. I'd still go with Hunter. This guy goes, I'm leaning towards Hogan and Bischoff coming in. Okay. What's going on between Rob Van Dam and Dave? Ask them. Who the hell cares? It's like if, the minute you're a reporter and you start getting into petty feuds with wrestlers, I think you look so bad, and I'm not, defending, or like trying to defend Van Dam either, because he's on, it's like, whatever. If the guy's got no credibility, then let it go. And if he's got credibility, then if the story's right, then that's cool, and take your lumps. If the story's wrong, then you can say it's wrong.
Forget about it.
and then forget about it, exactly. I saw on your website you hadn't gotten any feedback on the Piper show. I was at the show. There was a crowd of about 2,500 in a building that seats 9,500. That's pretty good for an indie, Brian.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's real good, actually.
The show was taped for future broadcast on pay-per-view. Oh, boy.
That's not good.
That's not good because there will be no one who will buy that pay-per-view. There were 2 decent matches on the show. The Mad Bomber against Kenny Lush. Do you know those guys, Brian?
No.
Okay, and the other one is Sabu and Tony Kazina. You know, I know Sabu, and you know Tony Kazina. Neither match was great, although Sabu match was cool to see some of those spots live, but it will come off on TV just like another Sabu match. Other guys on the card were Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who worked an even worse match than any of his matches in WCW.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah. And Greg Valentine and Matt Bourne had a horrible dog collar match. Honky was supposed to beat the show, but I guess he was too busy ripping on Jerry Lawler to make his flight. That's a good one. That's a good one. The main event was a battle royal with a bag of money on a pole for the guys to try to climb up. Mr. Perfect and Josh Wilcox were the last 2 left. Hey, I can't say Mr. Perfect.
Because no one else could climb the pole.
Yeah. Wilcox messed up.
Remember Big Bubba Rogers versus, who the hell was that? John Tensa, I think, and like the roll of quarters
Jimmy
on
Hart
the
had to climb
match.
the pole because
Jimmy Hart had to climb the pole.
That was awesome.
That was, oh my God.
Josh Wilcox messed up the finish. I heard that. I heard like he slipped or something on the finish. So they had to redo it with Mr. Perfect slingshotting Josh Wilcox into the corner and Wilcox grabbing the money. After the match, Mr. Perfect, I keep saying Mr. Perfect. He hasn't been Mr. Perfect in years. Stole the money bag and Roddy Piper came out and handed it back to Wilcox to end the show. Well, I don't think this show is worse than Heroes in Wrestling. Worse than Heroes of Wrestling. Oh, boy. Due to the fact there was not a drunk guy putting a snake in his pants, it was a very bad show.
How about a payoff on a pole match?
Oh, boy. Let's see. I know
that's really weird, though, when you think about Sabu and Tony Kazina, because Sabu requires a lot of catching, a lot of people to catch him, and Tony Kazina is not the size of guy that's going to be catching a lot of people.
Let's see. Did anyone ever get a clean pin on Andre before WrestleMania 3? Yes, many people did.
Nobody.
Yes, many people did. Many people. Actually, not that many. It's probably like 7 or something, but yeah, there were people who did.
He was too big at 7'4" for anybody to get a clean pin on him.
Okay. Connect was like the, most famous. Antonio Inoki. Well, actually, he's more famous than Connect. But there were several guys who did, yes. I know that shooters have traditionally done poor in mainstream pro wrestling, which is actually, I wouldn't even agree with that. Some have done poor and some have done great. Do any mixed martial arts or UFC fighters have the qualifications to make some impact on pro wrestling if they were interested? Well, I mean, as far as like shooters, I mean, like, Kurt Angle and Danny Hodge and Vern Gagne and Jack Briscoe and, those guys all did phenomenal in pro wrestling. Jumbo Ceruto was one of the best wrestlers I ever saw for years and years.
I think he's probably talking about people that did mixed martial arts.
Ken Shamrock's did pretty well. As far as mixed martial arts, only been around for 7 years, though.
Yeah.
If you look at, guys who would have been, quote, the mixed martial arts champions by legend, and we don't even know, like the Carl Gotches, who actually didn't do nearly as great as a pro wrestler as legend would have you believe, but he was a name and he is a legend. Or Masahiko Kimura, that was a very famous match, with Masahiko Kimura.
It's one of those terminology things, because a couple of years ago, shooter was like somebody who was an amateur wrestler, and now shooter is like somebody that was in UFC.
Okay. But I mean, Don Frye's done very well. Dan Severn and Tank Abbott have done horrible. Brian Johnston's done not so good. Who else has there been? Tons of guys have gone in. Ron Waterman, just starting out, so you really can't.
You mentioned Tank Abbott?
Yeah, he's done Tank Abbott.
Career skyrocketed.
Yeah, well, but the other thing is, the ones who were booked stupidly.
Is he still recording that CD, by the way?
I don't know.
That's the last we ever saw of him.
Yeah. But anyway, he goes, do any UFC or mixed martial arts guys have the qualifications? It's a question of if they get given a chance, because there's guys, on the Inoki on December 31st when Pride did the pro wrestling show. There were guys, I mean, like, if you had ever told me, and we were looking at, like, a tape of a UFC or a Pride, and I was to go, like, okay, who do I think would do good? I would have never said Akira Shoji, but Akira Shoji was better in his first pro wrestling match than probably most pro wrestlers are that have wrestled for 5 years. And Karu Uno was tremendous. Mark Coleman did very, very well. Gary Goodrich, who I would have thought would have done really well, he's got the look. and the attitude and the interview ability, his match with Hashimoto wasn't really all that good. In fact, it was.
And he was with Hashimoto.
Yeah. Although people liked the match. I mean, to me, that is because of Hashimoto. I mean, Gary Goodridge really wasn't that good, but he's got, if you just look at him, so you really can't say who would. I mean, Nick, I would have never guessed Don Fry would have done better than all these other guys, but he just did. So there's no way of really predicting because there's some guys who would do tremendous and some guys who just, I'd say most wouldn't.
Suck.
Most wouldn't do. Well, unless they got equal training to the pro wrestlers, they're not going to do as well. If they just came in, point blank. How many guys walk in point blank? And it took Kurt Angle a year before we ever saw him too,
Mm-hmm.
So, so anyway. It's refreshing to hear Brian blasting the Mummy because I was starting to wonder if I was the only one who hated it. I haven't seen great reviews for this movie. Actually, a lot of the reviews I've seen haven't been that good, but kept wondering if they actually saw a different movie. The movie's plot...
Like the first one.
Yeah, the movie's plot is the movie equivalent of an Undertaker and Kane storyline, incoherent, made up as it goes, and just feels slapped together. Was it that bad?
Dude, the best part was one of the characters had a dirigible, because it's the 1930s, and it's like homemade, like MacGyver, made out of like camel skins. And there's this one scene where they're being chased in the air by the ocean. The Mummy has caused the ocean to shoot up into the air and chase them. And he tries to escape by shooting off the rocket boosters on this homemade dirigible. And unfortunately, it's not enough, and the sea overtakes them, and millions of tons of water crash down on them and send them down to the earth. And not only are they not injured, but they're not even wet. Just like straight out of WCW.
So it's just with the movie
straight out of Hunter falling 40 feet in a car.
That's right out of the giant falling off of Cobo Arena.
Hey, at least he was wet.
Yeah, but what a fall. I mean, what, you fall like a half a mile? Anyway,
oh, my God.
When Vince gets into trouble, he always goes to the big guys. What was the reason for him pushing Shawn and Brett? Is it because of the steroid trial, or is there more to it than that? The steroid trial had a lot to do with it indirectly. It wasn't because of it. But what happened was in '92, after Vince McMahon started testing for real, for steroids, there were a whole bunch of guys, like everyone in the top of the card practically, who all of a sudden, I don't know, they all had like hemorrhoids at once, and you just saw them all disappear, and there was nobody left. And then all of a sudden, after Warrior and Bulldog, who were like the top two baby faces at the time, or Warrior was the top baby face, Hogan was already gone. Bulldog may have been right behind him, and they both got fired for being bad boys. And for basically the exact same thing as everybody else, and Vince just needed to create a babyface right away, and like everybody was gone. And it's like, we got to create this babyface right away, and they're sitting in there, and they picked Bret Hart. And did you ever tell you the story about Bret Hart, the meeting and everything of when he was going to get the title from Ric Flair, and they were going to shoot him to the moon as the top babyface?
I don't know.
Okay, they brought him in, they called him in.
Wasn't he told like at the very last second or something?
It wasn't the last second. It was like 2 or 3 days before. But they bring him to this meeting, and they just go, Brett, we're going to make some changes, okay, around here. And Brett's thinking, and then they go, you've been here for a long time, and we're going to make some changes. And I think it's Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson telling this to Brett.
And he thought, oh my
and
God,
Brett's going like, oh my God, I'm fired. Because Davey, of course, he hadn't done anything that Davey did, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh my God, I'm fired. And then they go, so we're going to make you world champion. And so that's how he got it. Now with Shawn, Shawn was just so damn talented. It's like, you'd have to kind of be a fool to miss it. You know what I mean? So
you think that about guys like Kurt Angle too, wouldn't you?
Well, the thing is, but they didn't have the steroid guys then. I mean, when you got no steroid guys there, and then you know what I'm saying? When all those big guys have left for all of their various reasons, all at the same time, you kind of have to. They had a dearth of talent, and Shawn and Brett were the two most talented guys there. So I think that's how it happened. Let's see. I was wondering who you think is the most forgettable WF champion. The one that always surprised me was Kane. No, it's Shawn Stasiak's father, Stan Stasiak. This is a pretty good one. In defense of Perry Saturn, the guy did spend a lot of time in WCW and probably thought beating up another wrestler would get him at least an Intercontinental title shot.
Yep.
The world title, right? Yeah. What was the attendance at AWA's Wrestle Rock 86 in Minneapolis? I'm trying to remember. If that's the show where Bruiser Brody and the Sheik And Vern Gagne and Greg Gagne were all in there at the end. I think it was 16,000. Who trained Steve Blackman, Easy Money, and Jason Jett? Well, Easy Money and Jason Jett are the same person. I don't know who's saying trained Easy Money. Steve Blackman. I don't know where Steve Blackman was trained, but the first I heard of Steve Blackman was wrestling in Calgary in the mid-'80s, when Owen Hart was there and Brian Pillman and all that. Let's see. Anyway, what else do we got here? After Thursday's show, I was wondering how true it was. Nick Bachman said during the 20th century, territories were decreasing decade by decade. How early did this trend start? I mean, I think they were, because I looked at stuff in the 50s, and there were a lot more territories in the 50s than there were when I started watching wrestling in the 70s. And in the 80s, there were fewer than the 70s. So they were decreasing. But still, even at the early 80s.
Down to one pin.
But even, they were still probably, 25 or so in the early 80s? Something like that. This is, you talked about Randy Savage's old ICW music. In fact, you talk about it a lot and play it a lot. One time on your show, Jim Cornette said it came from a movie soundtrack, but I do not recall what movie this was from. It's a theme from the movie Midnight Express, was the original Randy Savage entrance music, which later became the theme to the show, the ICW TV show, and then later Randy Savage came out to Fame. Al, do you know what Fame, what movie that was from? It was the movie Fame, right?
The movie, yeah. Actually, it was a television show as well.
It was later, but it was originally a movie.
Right, it was originally a movie.
Yes, okay, so that's the answer. And also, Brian, how can they get back issues?
TV shows.
How can they get back issues of Figure 4?
That's a damn good question. They are not currently available.
Well, it's a damn bad answer.
Especially before issue 100, which will never be available.
Okay, is it true that before Hogan left for WWF, he no-showed a date for the AWA? It depends on what you consider no-showing. I mean, if you were a fan of the AWA, he no-showed about 20 dates, because Vern just kept advertising him long after he was gone. But, what happened was he cut the deal and went to Japan, to go to WWF. So this is in, November. He cuts the deal with Vince Sr., goes to Japan, when Vince Sr.'s in Japan, and Vince Jr. And then, while in Japan, he sends a telegram to Vern. It is around December the 18th. And he was supposed to be back. Vern was starting back running December the 25th. He just goes, and he sent a telegram from Japan going like, Vern, I quit. I'm going to work for Vince McMahon. I'm not going to be at any of these shows. So all the shows, from Christmas to the end of January, Vern still advertises Hulk Hogan to be there, knowing, full well that he's not going to be at any of these shows. So then afterwards, they went on there and goes, well, he gave us our word, and, he also sent a telegram. So anyway, there's like 20 no-shows that Hulk Hogan did, but realistically, he told him he wasn't going to be there, so, I don't know. That was a big deal, though. Boy, when and they had like that sellout on Christmas in Minneapolis, and Hulk Hogan wasn't there. Boy. I don't know. Let's see. Was Perry Saturn sent home for shooting on Tony Bell or for his apparently injured neck? The actual reason was because of his injured neck, not for shooting on Tony Bell. Why was the WCW marketing study done if Vince Russo was going to bin the results? Because they started the survey long before Vince Russo ever got there. Oh. And they probably expected that maybe he would pay attention to the results as well.
And chances are Vince himself would have never asked for a survey to be performed.
Yes. Let's see. This is UFC 31 was a decent show. Semi Schultz versus Randy Couture is going to be very interesting, if they ever do it. I assume that's the matchup they're looking at. It's not yet, according to Joe Silva. Although they may do it.
Didn't Joe just say if there's ever a match, we might as well make it as soon as possible?
Well, he wants to make Couture and Pedro Rizzo rematch.
Yeah.
So
that'd be good.
As for that's what he's looking at as Anyway, as for Couture and Pedro Rizzo, John McCarthy should have stopped the fight at the end of the first round. Shades of Randleman versus Rutten. I thought at the end of the first round it should have been stopped, but they kept going. Rizzo clearly won round 2. I thought rounds 3 and 4 were even, with Rizzo winning 5. I expected Rizzo to win by a split decision. Rizzo only has himself to blame for not taking the openings he had in round 2. He reminds me of Kevin Randleman and Mark Kerr in that all three of them lack the killer instinct. I just think that Randleman has the killer instinct. He just doesn't have finishing moves. I think that Rizzo is just, he does lack the killer instinct. I agree. When Couture smells blood, he's like a shark. Do you think that the no-shoes rule affected the wrestler's ability to shoot? You'd have to ask one of the wrestlers, but that's a good question. It would be interesting to hear what they have to say. Getting a hold of a ticket to a WF UK card is impossible or very expensive. Most of the tickets are purchased in bulk by coach companies who sell them with hotel accommodations for an extraordinary amount of money. For the last UK show, The Rebellion in London, tickets with accommodations were being sold for £120, which, what's that, like almost $200? At the local coach station, they are selling one mid-range ticket with hotel accommodations for Manchester for £135. Okay, that's like $200. I paid about £30 for a front row ringside seat for the UK show for WCW several years ago. A great show, by the way. I will never forget Rick Rude against Ric Flair. WF needs to do something about it. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I guess the scalpers or the public isn't getting a chance by this. Well, when you're selling out 18,000 seats in 42 minutes, it sounds to me like people are purchasing more than like 2 tickets at a time, aren't they?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This is, if you think The Mummy Returns is hokey as hell, then you need to go see A Knight's Tale, where medieval peasants clap along and sing We Will Rock You, do the wave, and the Nike logo appears in a suit of armor. The only thing missing were peasants holding up misspelled signs. All right, let's go to Todd. Todd, what's going on?
Not much. How you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
Hey, Brian.
Yay.
Hey, you guys you referred to earlier, Brian, the payoff on a pole match. I actually saw one of those gimmicks. They did it on the last row of ECW house shows, I believe. Anyway.
Was there anything on the pole?
What? No, it was actually a swerve. There was an envelope, but once they opened it, there wasn't anything in there. It was sort of unfortunate. Dreamer didn't look so happy. Dave, I had a question for you. On the website, there's a reference to a book called Drawing Heat. I haven't heard of it. What is that book?
I'm thinking that was a book written.
It's a coloring book.
No, it's not. It was a book written, I'm thinking, about 10 years ago, maybe, by, I think the guy's name was Jim Friedman, although I'm not positive, and it was about the life of a guy named Dave McKigney, and just like Dave McKigney working this small territory, he was like the promoter of a small territory in Ontario, that Tunney, I don't know if it was Jack, it might have been Frank, but it was one of the Tunneys. This is before WWF used to like bully around and get the commission to like do dirty tricks on him, or at least he believed that they did, that the commission was in Tunney's pocket, and he was like the outlaw promoter. And it was a call, at that time there were no wrestling books, so people from that time will remember it real well. I mean, I thought it was kind of a good book then. I don't know what I would think of it now. I mean, the thought process. I mean, the stories were interesting, but the thought process of what wrestling was, which the guy wrote based on what McKigney told him, was kind of like, what like a lot of old-timers would say wrestling is, except it really isn't, because it's like he was like more interested in like drawing heat at an arena, thinking that they accomplished their goal, than like selling tickets to the arena, which actually a lot of people are, which is why a lot of them go out of business. But it was like one of those things where, we get so much heat at this show, and so therefore when we come back we're going to do big business, and it's not necessarily the same thing.
Okay, yeah, and just in terms of Mummy Return, I was just going to verify what Brian had to say. I unfortunately had to see, ended up seeing it this weekend, and even for like action movies, and I ended up seeing most of those. That thing was atrocious. It was just horrible. There's this guy dressed up like Canyon throughout who looked exactly like Canyon throughout the movie.
Did he diamond cut Judy Bagwell?
What?
I wish he would have.
And he would just sort of like give these like plot twists throughout the movie, and like he would just explain things away. It was sort of like WCW booking, where he threw things out so quickly that you weren't supposed to digest, and it just sort of went along. It was like completely.
Yeah, if there was a problem, it would just be explained away, and there was no logic to it.
Yes, it was like the 7 apocalypse, horsemen will come along on the 9th day of the apocalypse, and therefore they will come and help us and fight for us in our battle to free justice. It was completely bizarre. And I read the Foley book, and I was just going to refer to a couple things on that. What did you?
I'm very interested what you think on that.
Yeah, I liked. I remember him saying that he didn't think that you were going to like the drugs part of the book, and I actually thought that was very good. I thought it was one of the better ones I've read in terms of the drug issue. It didn't come across like he was biased, and he just sort of stated his opinion on it and sort of referenced to other places. Did you agree with that, or?
I thought his reasons, as far as like why wrestlers do drugs, I thought that was probably as honest as anything I've read by a wrestler in that regard. I thought where it was weak was I think this is the thing that on the drug issue is that, like, you know, the drug issues that exist in, I think that there's a feeling in wrestling that the drugs are okay because we're no different than football and we're no different than this sport and that sport. We're no different than the Olympics. And the thing is that they are different, and the reason they're different is because in all those sports people don't die from drugs. And that's the big difference more than, and that tells me that there's a bigger drug problem in wrestling than in football or the other sports. And they're just trying to say, well, you know, look at football. Do they do painkillers in football? Yes, they do. Do they do steroids in football? Yes, they do. I mean, so therefore we're no different. And it's like, no, but in some form or fashion, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because football drug tests and wrestling doesn't. But for whatever reason, we don't have Scott Halls in football. And that's a guy who's alive. But we don't have these guys, you know, like Tammy Sitches and all this. We don't have these people in football, let alone the ones who've died. And so that's why, like, you know, I think that a lot of people in wrestling, I think that's the one thing that they fail to realize when they talk about this issue is that because it exists in these other sports, therefore we don't got to worry about it because it's just like society. It's not just like society. It's worse. I guess that's my thought on it.
Yeah, and or like that was later on in the book, and I sort of agreed with like when he was talking about the personal responsibility, but I thought like when he was trying
I do too.
When he was talking about like the deaths earlier on, I agree with you. I thought it was horrible. He made like parallels to like Reggie Lewis in basketball, which was sort of more like a Plumerico sort of thing, which, you know, no one was criticizing WWF for, and then criticizing wrestling for. And then he like did like the Payne Stewart thing, which was more like, you know, like a Joey Morella sort of thing. It was like,
yeah, nobody ever criticized pro wrestling because Joey Morella died in a car crash.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like Hank Gathers is like Hank Gathers, you know, I don't know if you know who he was, Brian, but Hank Gathers, basketball player, and I'm thinking he's like I don't know, remember the year, but I'm thinking like 1989, who dropped dead in a college game. And it's like, you know, you got to go back 12 years to come up with this famous college basketball player. I mean, how many wrestlers have died since 89? What, 50? You know what I mean? 35? I don't know. I mean, more than 35.
I haven't got that far in the book, but what would you say overall as far as recommending it? Good?
I really liked it. I mean, obviously, like, the different wrestling books are very different, so I thought it was very good. I wouldn't rank it above Pure Dynamite or Tributes, but I thought it was better than his first book, actually.
You thought it was better first? Okay, I like the first book better. I really did.
I felt like the first book...
Just for the honesty?
No. I like the first book. I loved all those.
I mean, as far as why you like the second book better.
Okay, yeah, why did you like the second book better than the first?
Well, the first book, it sort of rambled at times, and he felt like he needed to get across everything that happened in his career. And, I mean, for people that know what happened in his career, there wasn't necessarily that need to go through, you know, point by point. And this one, he sort of, you know, to use wrestling terminology, is sort of high spots. He went to this and this and this, and sort of concentrated on things that he found interesting. And I thought it just sort of flowed better in that regard.
Okay. I liked the first one because I thought there was a lot more in the first book he wasn't afraid of saying because he wasn't in any of those companies anymore. And in this one, it's all WWF, and you could see that, like, you know, I mean...
He had to be careful with what he said.
He was being careful with he was being a lot more careful with what he said, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh, and one
I didn't get far enough to read the thing about the ghostwriter of the first book, and I don't understand why he didn't just say the guy's name. It was like he buried him. He kept going on and on again about how, you know, I think this guy's a good writer, but I just don't think this is good for my book, blah, blah, blah. So what was the problem? It's not like he buried this guy and said this is the worst writer I've ever read in my life. He sucks.
I can tell you what it is. It was a decision that was made by WWF, and he didn't disagree with the decision.
I don't think that's the only point in the book that they did that either. I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that he refers to a movie as Big Money Hustlers, and I'm almost certain that's Insane Clown Posse as opposed to The Misfits, and he refers to The Misfits in there. And it doesn't strike me as the sort of mistake that...
I think that is Insane Clown Posse, because that confused me, too.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because one of my roommates is a big Insane Clown Posse fan, and, like, I think he just changed the name there again for, like, legal reasons. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was sort of odd.
Well, there was a lot of stuff because of the China book that made the end process of this book.
Although, wasn't he talking quite a bit about Jerry Only?
Yeah, exactly. That's what confused me more.
But Jerry Only's that's the Misfits.
He's the Misfit guy.
Yeah. So, I mean,
maybe Foley just got confused.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused.
And one last thing. When at one point in the book, Mick Foley was talking about, like, right before WrestleMania, and I still don't understand why they went to the four-way, besides, like, the Four McMahon thing, which doesn't strike me as, a money-making.
That's why.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, Mick Foley was talking about how when Vince brought him in there, that at the time he hadn't gotten paid his royalties for Royal Rumble and hadn't been paid for No Way Out, and the book royalties hadn't come in yet. Do you think there was anything subliminal with Vince that Vince might have been thinking, hey, I don't really have much left in this guy. If he's willing to quit right now, I might be able to, save a lot of money on the deal right now?
I don't see how he could not pay those royalties, though. So no, I don't think from Vince's standpoint, no. I mean, obviously Foley was, it must have been an issue in his head because he went and said it. But I don't see Vince. How could Vince not pay his payoff for Royal Rumble and for No Way Out and not pay his book royalties? I mean, I don't know how he could do that.
Well, he tried it before with a lot of different people, It's
just like the China deal where she left her agency and felt she didn't have to pay him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That didn't fly.
Anyway, that's about it, though. You guys have a good day.
This is from Mike in Arizona. Do you think Sandman has a shot at getting into the new WCW? Not right now. I mean, I would never try to predict what's going to happen in wrestling more than 6 months from now, but right now, no. Could you tell me the name of the wrestling event where Bruiser Brody no-sold Lex Luger? It's just a house show in Lakeland, Florida, and it was a cage match. Is it available on tape? Obviously, it's available on tape because everyone's seen it. I mean, a lot of people have seen it. Is Lex Luger currently doing independent shows? He cannot do them because if he does, he'll lose his Time Warner contract, and it's a very valuable contract.
Don't ever expect to see it.
What, Luger doing it when it's over? Do you think he'll never do indie shows?
The guy's got money.
He's got money.
I just don't see Lex Luger working in front of 300 guys at the Homer Hesterly Army.
Armory. Okay. Considering Inoki's age and his recent booking decisions, perhaps it's time he got tested for senility. Yeah, I mean, he definitely thinks differently than everybody else, doesn't he? Oh, my God. Yes. Do you
Hell of
think
a physique, though. I just wanted to mention that.
For his age? Oh, my God. No kidding. Seriously, what an incredible athlete, though. I mean, when Brock Lesnar is talking about, like, wrestling this 58-year-old guy for 90 minutes, and they're throwing each other around, and this is Brock Lesnar, who's, like, a monster. And, I mean, even if he was doing all the throwing, just the fact that this guy, like, stayed alive.
Could go for 90 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, do you realize that, like, in 45 seconds with Brock Lesnar, we would be dead. I mean, dead of a heart attack. And, I mean, he's doing this for Anyway. Let's see. Do you think Mike Bell will sue the WWF? No, I don't think so. If I was him... Yeah. Who's a part of the WWF creative team outside of the McMahons and Paul Heyman? Let's see. Jamie Morris. What's it? Todd Gortz?
Brian Gortz.
Brian Gortz. Is there anybody else that Bruce Pritchard? Michael Hayes is sort of has some involvement. I mean, there's a lot of different people. Anyone I'm missing? Hunter. Yeah, Hunter's got a lot of pull. Of course, Vince. Does Basil DeVito now get the Earl Hebner swear on my kid's title? DeVito swore on the heads of his children there would be a second season of the XFL.
That's right.
Yes. And remember when he
gets $500,000 a year now?
I think so. I think that's what it is. Remember when he said that, and we said that's you just never say that. The last guy who said that, that's 2 in a row. God, the next person who's going to say that's going to be like somebody in a promo, and we're going to go, aha, for sure that ain't happening. Let's go to James. James, what's up?
Hey, I got a question about the commercial, actually. What is Backwana?
What?
It said something about married, it was one of those stupid anti-drug commercials, but it was talking about, somebody did marijuana and now they're scooping Backwana or something. And what's that?
Damn good question.
Huh?
We don't know.
Okay, also, is it just me, or, does Benoit just have abnormally short arms? Because, I mean... He
does have abnormally short arms, yes.
Really? Like, how short? Like, is he on
I don't know,
but
they're short for his height, yes. Which is
probably why. Does he have trouble tying his shoes?
I don't know, but you're going.
No, but I bet he can bench a hell of a lot.
What?
Yeah. Let's go to Sean. Sean, what's up?
Hey guys.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey Brian, is your email working?
Yeah, it is.
All right, and Dave, I never got to tell you this, but like the last two observers right before WCW went out, I just thought that line was so awesome that said nothing is forever. I love that.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Thank
But
you very
anyways,
much.
I was reading the Observer this week, and I was reading about all the England, everyone over in England being, pissed about the insurrection or whatever.
Yep.
And I just don't see what they have to be mad about because they get every pay-per-view for free. I mean, they have to pay for one pay-per-view a year. I mean, God, they're so lucky. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Do you
That
realize
is true.
that they save? Listen to that, $30 times 12 pay-per-views, and one of them's 40. So it's $370 a year that we're all paying, or Brian's chipping in for. $370 a year that they're saving, and they're spending $20 on two or three pay-per-views a year.
I know. I'd probably spend
It's kind of like the whole WCW thing, though. You can make the same complaint. You guys got all these free TV main events, and now you're complaining because you got a bad one on pay-per-view?
Well, some of their complaints are would they complain like, oh, there's no major title changes? Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go over to England and have Undertaker beat Austin and then come back on Raw and show the Americans photos. Like, oh, by the way, title switch, and you didn't see it. That's real good for business.
Well, you can always change the European.
First European title switch was over there in Germany.
But I also saw the Perry Saturn this weekend, and Brian, you're a worker, so you know a lot more than me. But I thought it was just brutal. I mean, he does that ring step spot like every match, and usually he just it looks pretty weak. I mean, it's usually like the guy's butt, lower back, but I mean he drilled him into those steps.
He did drill him pretty hard at the steps, but it just didn't look to me like it was, if Saturn really wanted to beat somebody up, I don't think that he would post him on the ring steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but you know what else too? Like you said earlier though about Mike Bell, he kind of sold it like a wrestling match. I mean, think about that poor guy. I mean, he's sitting there, he's getting a tryout with the WWF. I mean, he can't do anything. Of course he's going to sell it. He's probably thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight back either or anything like that, but...
You know what I'm saying? He's probably thinking, geez. I mean, the funniest part was listening to the commentary because Michael Hayes is they just both went silent.
Young Mike Bell learned a lesson here tonight.
Yeah, it's oh, we've all been there, It's like, wow. And did you guys see Dateline last night?
I didn't see Dateline, but I read a transcript of it. So it's not
Rock was good, but I just Stone Phillips, I mean, it's you could just tell, I mean, he just thought wrestling was the most disgusting thing ever. Like he said, in the very beginning, he's The Rock, he's a professional wrestler, but don't hold it against him.
That's good.
It's my God.
You shouldn't. Hey, if you're good, whatever you're good at, it shouldn't be held against you. I mean, unless you're the greatest murderer, then I guess it could be. But I don't think greatest pro wrestler or most charismatic pro wrestler is necessarily something negative.
Hey, and I'm just wondering the status of two guys about their chances at WCW. Is Super Crazy? Is there anything new on him?
Nothing new on him. They don't like Mexicans. I mean that's the reality. I mean,
it's a nice way to say it.
He may get in.
How about we say they don't like that style?
They don't like that style of wrestling. That's a lot nicer way of saying the same thing.
It drives me crazy because they got S.A. Rios, and every week he's on jacked, and he's with a nobody, and he still puts on a pretty darn good match. And
look at look at where S.A. Rios has been in the last 2 years in WWF.
I know, that's what I'm talking about. It's he can't even get on Raw. He can't even get squashed on Raw.
Oh, I mean, the best he can do on Raw is that thing with Kurt Angle, remember?
I mean, I feel so bad for him.
You're still working here?
Just look at Lita. Just look at him and Lita.
Oh, my God.
Look at him.
Think about not being able to even make it to Heat.
I know. Oh, he makes it to Heat sometimes, too.
And what about Vito? What about Big Vito? They going to get him?
I don't know what about Big Vito. I don't know anything about Big Vito right now. I mean, they didn't pick up his contract, so I think wasn't he fired first before they went out of business anyway? Wasn't Vito one of those last?
So.
I thought Vito had good charisma and stuff. I thought he wasn't.
Maybe he was actually. I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought Vito worked really, really hard. I think the thing that hurt Vito was that he was so close to Russo, and then when Russo was out of power, everybody just wanted to bury him. And he also Vito did not make a lot of friends there. I can tell you that. And and the same with ECW. Because remember when Vito was in ECW for a long time, and no one even remembers it as the Baldies, and then he came to WCW, and it was he was really good, and people were going because usually ECW doesn't miss a trick on a guy like that. And it was kind of he had so much heat with everyone in the dressing room that Paul couldn't push him. You know what I mean? Because, he does have talent, no doubt about it. I mean, he works hard. He got over a little bit, too, with, kind of with that gimmick. So, but, yeah, no, I haven't heard anyone talk about him. I haven't seen his name on Indies. I don't know what's up with Vito.
And you had Flair on, so you can have WCW guys on now, right? I mean, as far as...
no, actually, I am of the impression until their contract runs out, I can't.
Okay. All right, well, hey, thanks, guys. And, hey, Can you try to get Micropada on?
Micropada. I don't know. I don't know any reason why not, to be honest.
I just I watch him every week here on NWA Wildside, and I don't know. I think he's a pretty good worker. I mean, he'll never probably make it big time, but I don't know. He has some commercials around here locally, so.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, all right. Later, guys.
All right. Well, the main event for tonight's Raw's War, this is an email I just got, says it will be Hunter and Austin against Undertaker and Rikishi. And that the match will be a setup for a match on Judgment Day this coming Sunday, which will be a three-way with Hunter, Kane, and Rikishi.
Oh, my God. Could they make the show any worse?
We'll find out. We'll discuss that tomorrow. With the WWF July pay-per-view being called Invasion, is it possible that Booker T or Scott Steiner could be involved in the main event in some way? I mean, not wrestling in it, absolutely not. Involved in it in some sort of a run-in or something? Of course it's possible. Will the Wrestling Gold DVD set be available in stores or only online? I don't know. And I don't know. I know precious little about this other than I know
everybody
it's
should know better than to ask us any questions about anything that we do.
Yeah, because they never tell us. It's available on Amazon.com. I know that, and I don't know much else. This is to Brian. You were totally right. The Mummy Returns was way too much special effects garbage and very disappointing. The first movie was very good and a lot less special effects, which is why I really anticipated this one. Me and my friends went to see it, and we laughed at the ridiculous rock scorpion thing at the end that looked like it was from a PlayStation 2 game. I can't wait to read your movie review, but I want to let you know, guys, the first movie was better.
The thing is, if you look back at, like, King Kong, the very first King Kong, they had this little... They animated this little doll, this monkey doll, but the audiences still felt that this was a real giant ape, or at least it was an actual monkey or whatever. But, like, in The Mummy Returns, you'd see these special effects, and in no way could you believe that what you were seeing was real. It was like watching a cartoon. That's the other part I hated about it. Totally unrealistic.
Let's go to Wes. Wes, what's up?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
In regards to the new WCW, when do you think it gets to how far, in terms of July? Some people are saying September, to the point where, I mean, on one hand, I know they want to plan it out right, and I have a lot of respect for that, but, I mean, it's already losing a lot of interest. If they were to hold out to September, I mean...
Well, I think as far as, like, when it starts, they've already lost all that interest anyway. I mean, it could be September, it could be, November, it could be December. Whenever it starts is just the time it starts. I don't think you're by not having it start each month, you're hurting. I think that just... Now, as far as the timetable, it's when they get the TV deal together is when it's going to start. And the TV deal's not done. And everything else is contingent on that.
Any truth to the fact that I know some people are saying that TNN, because of no Goldberg or Sting, they're saying that they won't pick it up because of that, or they have
It has
problems?
nothing to do with Goldberg and Sting.
I highly doubt
it. Has nothing to do with Goldberg and Sting or anything like that, no.
Also, in regards to some of their slumping ratings, Shawn Michaels, obviously it's the old booking philosophy of bring people back to help ratings. Would that help his status any?
From what I gather about Shawn Michaels, the only thing that will help his status is if he goes into rehab.
Is that right?
And completes it successfully and comes out with a clean bill of health. And even then, it's like, he's going to be on one of those, permanent secret probation type of a deal.
-1 tolerance now, since he's already done the zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance or something. Yeah. I mean, the whole deal is they're not in the habit of wanting to start angles and then having to drop them because guys aren't able to fulfill the angles. And unless they consider you a pretty good bet that you're going to be there for the long haul, why put you on TV in the first place? They're not into this one shot. Well, you know what? If we put Shawn Michaels on TV next Monday or 2 weeks from Monday and advertise like crazy, next Monday Shawn Michaels will be on. Yeah, the rating will be up for 1 week, and then we have nothing to do with him, because he's not going to last a month. They don't work like that, and probably they shouldn't. It's to their credit. So, it's all up to Shawn Michaels.
I got a lot of respect for that, considering how WCW, Scott Hall gave him chance after chance. I have no problem.
And that's maybe one of the reasons why Scott Hall cleaned himself up so well for so long, was because he knew that no matter what he did, I mean, until the end, they actually did get around to firing him, but that was only because Hoovy did what he did, and they just didn't want a racial lawsuit out of it.
Yeah.
So they figured they had, but with No, I know. I mean, that's the difference. That's why, there are not going to be as many problems in WWF as there were in WCW, because WWF doesn't handle it the same way.
Yeah. Also, with Jerry Lynn and Tajiri, do you see them, WWF, and doing any more with their light heavyweight division? What's up with Dean Malenko?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, where'd he go?
He's there. He was on Jerry Lynn on Sunday Night Heat yesterday. I think it was yesterday, or was it a week ago yesterday? I don't know.
We haven't had anybody call and talking about that show yet. I heard it was hideous.
We got emails asking about. We got emails from people who said it was hideous. Yeah. I didn't see it. But Dean Malenko's around. I mean, what can I say about the light heavyweight division? It's, you know what? I mean, if somehow or other there's one of these light heavyweight matches and it starts getting super heat, they still aren't going to push it. But the fact that it's not getting any heat now, even with the good wrestling, we'll get lip service on it forever because it's always a popular topic. But we're not going to get a serious push of the light.
Dean Malenko and Scotty.
Yeah, they had a hell of a match, but it didn't save the division or even make the division.
No.
And that did have a lot of heat by the time that match was over. That was a hell of a match.
Yeah. Also, what of the WCW guys that aren't going to get picked up in regards to Japan? Do you see any of those guys having any kind of real impact? I kind of think Buff Bagwell's a bit of a stretch myself, but
he can go if he wants to. New Japan will take Buff Bagwell. He did pretty well there. I don't know if he'll be able to hang this time though. He was a lot younger when he went there before, and a lot better wrestler. But I'm sure he could get a shot there. I think Luger would get one tour there. I don't know after one tour if they would ever ask him back.
For one match.
Yeah, really. So, I don't know. Maybe, who was I'm trying to think. I mean, everyone in Japan had a lot of interest in Goldberg, but they can't get him either. So, that was the one that everybody wanted, was Goldberg. I know that.
He's not going. I wouldn't hold their breath on that one. Last question. What was the deal way back when Telly and Arn jumped to WWF? Was that the transition? They didn't want to stick around, or was it money? And then when they started, they got a pretty good push into WWF. And then was it just the fact they wanted to go back, or was it kind of fell by?
Ric Flair was the booker, and he talked Jim Herd into giving them both, or didn't talk. Or got the approval. He offered them both $250,000, which was a lot more than they were making in WWF at the time, to jump back. They both did. And then Tully went and got himself suspended on the cocaine violation, when he failed the cocaine test for WWF. Jim Herd didn't want anything to do with Tully because of that. And then without Tully, he went and would only offer Arn $156,000, which I don't think was any... I don't even know if that was even more than Arn was making in WWF, but Arn was kind of trapped because he was already done from WWF, so he had to come in at the time. As far as when they left, as I recall, there was just tremendous heat at the time with Dusty, and they just took off. It had nothing to do with I don't think it had anything to do with anything else.
What was the deal, too, when back at that, when they were going to bring Telly back from WCW, and when it ended up with, it was Paul Roma, Flair, Arn, and all the talk with Blanchard, was it problems again, or?
I just remember there were times they were thinking of Tully Blanchard a couple of times, but I just don't know how serious it ever got, and maybe they probably just didn't come to a money terms. I don't know. I don't know the answer really. I should remember all that, but for some reason it just never. I just know that it never happened. So. Yeah.
Okay, guys, enjoy the show. Have a good show.
See, about the loss of WWF popularity, the New York Daily News did one of those who's hot and who's not with the local junior high students, and WWF was number 2 on the who's not list.
Uh-oh.
And boy, they would have been like number... It's happening so bad. I hate... compare that to a year ago or 2 years ago. I look at my own children who are almost as hardcore wrestling fans as I am, and all I see is no interest. My kids join me in my room more often when I'm watching old WCW and ECW tapes. They love how early in his career Steve Austin looked so much more like Triple H with his physique and his hair. Oh no, they missed that. The idea of a choice in promotions, the best thing for WWF to do is to get real serious about WCW also, or for Hogan or anyone to get TV time. The Hogan thing won't be good news. WWF making WCW work would be the best news possible for this industry, and probably the only one that will turn around a potential downslide. This is from Mike, who says, Mike King, who says, I think the reason Austin is not drawing as well as a heel is not due to the fans not wanting to see him as a heel, but more these reasons. He's perceived as he's portrayed as a lackey, not only to Vince, but also to Hunter. If there was a good storyline reason for it, it'd be one thing, but overnight he's become a different person, and the announcers aren't helping. Austin and Hunter backing off from Undertaker and Kane should have been much bigger. No real strong faces to feud with. With The Rock gone, that leaves only the top two faces in Undertaker and Kane. No offense to them, since they do work hard. I got offense to them. They're not the top two faces. Undertaker's close, and Kane just isn't there. There's no one new on top. There's no reason someone new to the top level could not have been elevated before The Rock came back. Austin's not the top heel, even though he's the world champion. Austin's on-air time is behind Vince and Hunter. I think if they portrayed the Vince-Austin-Hunter relationship as more like Vince and Hunter making a deal with a guy they're barely able to control, and at the same time elevate Jericho and Benoit as new people for Austin and Hunter to feud with, the WF would have had a lot bigger draw in the heel Steve Austin.
You know, the whole thing with Undertaker and Kane working hard is, who doesn't work hard? Who in the WWF does not work hard right now?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was about to say Kevin Nash, but you qualified it by WWF. Yeah, no, there's no lazy guys in the WWF. You can't be. The minute you're lazy in the WWF, you're in Ohio Valley.
Being put on top should not be how hard you work.
Yeah, because everyone works hard. Is it true that Buddy Rogers lost so quickly to Bruno because he was in great pain and could barely make it to the ring? There are a lot of stories.
He had a heart attack, remember?
Well, Bruno said he didn't. I don't know. I mean, Rogers told me that he did. You know, Bruno said he didn't. So, and Rogers is dead. So, what can I say?
It'll be the first time somebody lied to you.
No, that's true. Not even the first time this weekend, right? Let's see. Whatever happened to the Great Kabuki? You know, he wrestled like yesterday or the day before for Tori Human as a surprise, like mystery opponent at a Cork and Hall show. Also, is a Texas Death Match a last man standing? Depends on the rules.
Depends on the rules.
Yeah, Texas Death
rules.
How
strange to say that.
Texas Deathmatch rules have been changed so many times in so many different places that they can be almost anything. And also, why does everybody hate Lex Luger? They do not hate Lex Luger. They are just not enamored of a man so lazy who has made so much money doing so little and this with negative charisma and I don't know what else.
You know, I am kind of enamored when I really think about it. I really look back at this man and making so much money, getting away with doing absolutely nothing and being pushed as a result of it. It's really hard to feel bad for the company.
No, I don't feel bad for the company. They're out of business. Let's see. This from Jeff, who goes, Brian, you're incorrect about RTC having the longest breakup angle. The longest breakup angle is Hunter and Stephanie. Actually, they have...
Hey, you know what? I was really thinking about Hunter and Stephanie the other day, and Hunter's the smartest man in the entire world, because the thing is, we were always talking about why don't these two break up? Neither of them wants to be dumped. The whole thing is, Hunter has attached himself to a member of the McMahon family who will be on television until the day she dies as a main eventer. When do you think you're going to see Stephanie in the opening match or in the mid-card? Never. She will always be in the main event, and Hunter is her husband, and thus he shall always be in the main event. He's the smartest man I ever saw.
Yeah. Let's go to Chris. Chris, what's up?
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
Dave, I'm a little, well, first of all, regarding, you guys were talking about the Giant, how even the Giant angle is more logical because at least he came up wet from that fall. Wasn't the Cobo Arena like 3 blocks from the waterfront, though?
It was
there was a bucket filled with water underneath, like in the circus.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I'm kind of a little puzzled about the note on the Observer website today, Dave, that says that the Benoit and Jericho Edge and Christian match is going to lead to singles feuds.
When Angle hasn't finished feuding with Benoit?
Well, not only that, but you know, actually, Benoit and Jericho are getting a decent tag push. Like, to me, it would make sense to you know, maybe have them at a pay-per-view beat Austin and Triple H for the tag titles. No. But listen, you know, the thing is, you could have, you know, if they went over in a tag team match, okay, it's not as, you know, it's kind of like an old WWF style. Remember how, like, in the early 80s, you know, tag team guys could never hang in singles matches, but tag teams could always beat, you know, the two singles guys put together. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like you could get heat on either Benoit or Jericho by getting a pin on Austin and Hunter, and then use it down the line for storyline when they get into a singles feud. But of course, I mean, we're just going to have them fight Edge and Christian, and then have singles feuds for a while. I mean, you know, and then we get to see Undertaker and Kane again in the main events, which I'm really excited about.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I assume people from the WWF listen to the show, so maybe someone could take that idea and maybe use it.
There's a bunch of writers now that are sending stuff in. Here's my advice: if you're one of those writers that they're asking for opinions on, you know, because they're looking for new writers, because besides adding WWF, there's a feeling that some of the writers are getting burned out, and they're obviously taking applications. Do not book, as someone sent to me, 3 straight pay-per-views with Benoit beating Austin. You will not get the job. Saying, like, this is how to get Benoit over, have him beat Austin on 3 straight pay-per-views. Like, you know what? It'd get him over like crazy, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it just
I can't tell you, you know, I can't. You know what? The idea, if they went on a Raw like tonight, just as an example, Benoit and Jericho against Austin and Triple H, or maybe not this week, because you can always say, well, it's the week before the pay-per-view. Next Monday night, the day after the pay-per-view, put Benoit and Jericho over.
Just do it tonight.
Okay, no, next Monday night. Seriously, okay. And just do that. Do that as a way to set up something for King of the Ring or who knows what. I cannot give you one good reason why you shouldn't do that, but I just know that I'm not holding my breath waiting for it to happen either.
Well, you know what I was glad about? I was glad that, you know, right when Benoit and Jericho are really catching fire singles, you put them in a tag, first of all. Then you let them be dominant, and you give Jeff Hardy this mega push. That was awesome. And then,
that wasn't a mega push. That was a Hector Garza push.
I'm being sarcastic. And then now you bring Rikishi back in the main events, you know, at the time again.
Mega push down to the opening match.
Huh?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, what do you think would have got a better reaction? Putting Rikishi into the main event mix on a Raw, or putting like either Benoit or Jericho? I mean, but instead Rikishi...
Right now, I think they all probably would have gotten the same, you know, just because Benoit and Jericho were pretty flat. But for the long term, obviously, I would have put Benoit in there of those 3.
Well, I also have a little message for all the smarts out there, quote unquote. Well, you know, the thing is that I see all this stuff, like, you know, I contribute to a couple of message boards, and, you know, Dave, I've written you letters and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's not like the WWF isn't losing audience at this point, and the fact that they picked up none of WCW's audience and that they have less audience now than they did head-to-head, which you pointed out again in this week's Observer, Dave, the newsletter. If that doesn't scare people, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I'm on message boards posting about the same things that brought WCW down, and now the WWF sheep, quote unquote, are, you know, acting just like the WCW sheep did. And I've been a WWF mark forever. I'm from Boston. It's always been the home team. But, you know, there's no other game in town right now, and I don't really want to see them sink, because who's to say they can, you know, 2 years from now they can come back from it if it gets bad enough? I mean, there'll always be a market for the WWF, but if you're a sincere fan and you have any interest in seeing, you know, this industry prosper, I mean, you should be concerned about what's going on.
Yeah.
I completely agree on that. Couldn't agree
I hate
more.
hearing quit complaining, just watch it, enjoy it, because I heard that for months and months about WCW, and now it's dead. Well,
Jim Cornette had a famous quote about Vince Russo. You know, he said you could put 2 dogs humping in the street and it'll draw a crowd a couple of times, and it'll entertain people. But long term, you know, you gotta have some quality stuff out there.
I don't think it'll sell on pay-per-view, though.
Well, hopefully not. If it does, that's more of an
depends on the dogs.
Society then. But
or Lassie and Benji.
Yeah. But you know the point. I mean, they seem to be getting away from a lot of the tried and true concepts. I mean, a year ago, Triple H beating guys on pay-per-view as a heel was cool, but it's, you know, it's past the point of
run its course.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to, and I'm a big Triple H mark. I mean, I think the guy's awesome. I used to write Dave letter. I used to hate every time Dave wrote that he was.
I think he's awesome too. I really do. It's just, you know, but you can't be selfish. You know what I mean? In this environment.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand it when a guy, you know, was kind of held back for a while, kind of punished, you know, fairly or unfairly is for others to judge. But, you know, again, you know, here's the thing I don't get. Let's assume that Triple H has power, okay, and enough of Vince's ear that he keeps himself in the main event mix. Doesn't he understand that the main events are going to get real stale if it's just the same 4 guys? Wouldn't putting Angle in the main event or Jericho or Benoit, I mean, wouldn't it preserve his standing in the main events because it gives him fresh opponents in the main events? I mean, does anyone understand that at WWF, or are they just...
That's what I don't understand either. And the funny thing is I think Triple H absolutely should be in the main events.
Yeah, nobody's arguing that.
He's probably, with the exception of Austin, not even probably, with the exception of Austin, he's the most complete guy in that company. But he needs fresh opponents. Austin needs fresh opponents. And them regurgitating Undertaker and Kane isn't working. And when they go against each other, this time with Hunter as the face and Austin as the heel, that will probably work once or twice. But then people, after about 2 meetings...
They can't drag it on for 6 months.
Yeah, well,
right.
That's the problem with everything.
And then we're sitting here going like, well, wait till Rock comes back. And Rock comes back, we'll probably draw a big buy rate once or twice. It'd be like when Austin came back. The first time back, Rock will draw a buy rate, but then we're back to Rock, Austin, and Triple H doing 3-ways. And it's like, and that's when it's going to really hit the skids, because they need new guys up there now. And this is the perfect time. Business is down anyway.
Right.
So like, just say, okay, this summer is a rebuilding process. We're going to do terrible. Like this last buy rate probably showed it. The next one will as well. So let's just put new guys in the main events all summer long and then see what we got in the fall.
I'll tell you one thing, Dave. When Rock comes back, watch them turn him heel and Hunter face so Hunter can beat him 50 times again.
No, that I don't buy that.
No, I know, but I mean, I wouldn't.
Hey, I don't put anything past him anymore, believe me.
Yeah. Well, they really
I know, because if it was WCW, that's what they would do. Remember with Bret Hart when that movie came out?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, the perfect time to turn him face. So what we'll do is
look at Goldberg. Came back from his big injury. Oh, let's turn him heel.
Well, I was thinking about the Bret Hart angle that was so awesome in WCW. Was that night in Toronto where Goldberg speared him and he had like the chain metal on under his hockey shirt, and Goldberg got knocked out. And then where did they go from there? That was horrible. But anyway,
they did nothing. And the funny part about that angle, that the only reason that angle was what it was because Bret Hart kept saying no to every single suggestion.
Right.
Because, the big thing was Hogan was supposed to beat him up afterwards, which he said, no, that would be stupid. Can you imagine how stupid that would have been? Okay. Or then they wanted him to go and turn heel in Toronto. Can you imagine that one?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was lame enough when Jericho had to do that,
Yeah.
God. It's like, hey, we've got a guy who's super over who can draw in the city, so the first thing we'll do is we'll have him yell at the fans and go, hey, I don't like you anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the scariest thing is that Vince is repeating all the mistakes all over again. And if Vince doesn't know better, then really, I mean, what can you say?
I know. I mean, I think that's the saddest part of all this that scares me the most is that we got a model. We got this model of everything not to do.
Perfect model.
A perfect model. That's right, of everything not to do. And these guys watched and laughed. WWF laughed while that group self-destructed, and here they are repeating the same things, and it's just like, I mean, how can you? I mean, if anything, make new mistakes. Don't be making the same mistakes of not making stars that these guys made.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Keep up the great work, and I said it before, I'll say it again. I hope there's an Observer 2 years from now. There will be.
You've just depressed Dave.
There will be. Don't worry about that.
If the only thing you have to cover is Roddy Piper's cards, I mean, we could have a problem there.
Although I will not swear on will not swear on any children's lives that I may have in the future, because that one, that track record of that one isn't good at all.
Yeah, that's already played out.
We'll start writing about bodybuilding.
Oh God, that one's going to be. With Liger being a shell of his former self, Ultimo Dragon retiring, and let's not even talk about what became of Shinjiro Otani, who do you think is the best junior heavyweight in Japan today? Personally, I would think it would be either Shima or Minoru Tanaka, but within the next 2 years, it may be Naomichi Marufuji. I would say Minoru Tanaka for sure as the best, and Marufuji in 2 years would not surprise me. I know, Brian, any thoughts on that?
I haven't seen a lot of Shima lately, but Tanaka's awesome.
Oh, he's tremendous. The match with him and Murahama was probably the best match in Japan all year. It was on New Japan TV 2 weeks ago. Let's see. When the Judgment Day pay-per-view draws a mediocre buy rate, will the excuse be it was up against the season finale of The Sopranos? Somebody will say that, yes. Yes, without a doubt. Let's see. Wrestling Gold is available at Fry's in Los Angeles for $14.99. Okay, that's cool. Have you considered getting Little Guido on the show? I'd love to get Little Guido on the show. Yes, definitely. Let's see. The point of why we moan about paying for a British pay-per-view is because if there's nothing on that we haven't seen before and no title changes and we get 12 events for free, why spend money on a pay-per-view for stuff that we've already seen for free? There's your answer. This is from Bob Nikandowicz, who says, there was a weird incident on Heat on Sunday. During the sit-down with the Big Show, Taz asked a question along the lines of, I've been having some trouble here in WF lately, as you have, and then pushed the question further by indirectly referring to his weight problem with his problems and troubles in the WF. Michael Cole jumped in with, before we answer this, let's talk about your success. About a minute or so later, Taz chimed in with, hey, Big Show, I'm going to sit here with my thumb up my ass because the questions asked aren't the right ones. He did continue the interview later, and after sitting silent for 2 or 3 minutes, no reference was made to this for the rest of the show. Am I that desperate for seeing something interesting in the WF that I've read too much into this? I don't know. Other people have seen it, and we have not, so I don't know.
You know what's funny was on the SmackDown show where Credible and X-Pac are doing commentary, and, I think X-Pac starts talking about Raven's gear and his jean shorts. And he's talking about what a ghetto outfit that is, and no one should wear jean shorts in WWF, and Justin's sitting there right next to him, who's worn jean shorts his entire career. And they just happened to cut to him when they were both laughing about the joke, and I thought that was perfect.
It's from Brian Bowers, who says, I like Mummy 2. You have to remember that films like Mummy 2 are science fiction. Most science fiction is imaginary, not supposed to be real. The special effects in Mummy 2 were amazing. A lot of the stories in Mummy 2 are hokey, but that's expected because of the sci-fi horror genre.
I don't buy the sci-fi deal. The movie was set in 1935. It said right there on the screen. At least have a little realism.
Is Toronto getting the Survivor Series pay-per-view? The last I heard they were, yes. Will Tajiri be on TV tonight? I don't know. I mean, he was in Dark Stuff last week, so I don't know. It's from Milton Fernandez. I read Mick Foley's book. I thought it was a very good read, not better than the first book due to the lack of complete honesty in some instances. He did do a fabulous job in portraying Vince McMahon as a sympathetic individual for those who don't know any better. Do you think Mick Foley's career could have been prolonged to have been more diligent in physical fitness? I mean, I would say...
You can be as fit as you want when you fall off a 16-foot cage through a table. All the working out in the world isn't going to help that much.
Yeah,
same with the chair shots to the head.
I mean, the thing is with him is that, like, you know, even if, I mean, the thing is, Mick Foley actually spent more time in the gym. He says this in the book, but Mick Foley spent more time in the gym than anyone can imagine, but his weakness is that he never ate well. And if you would say, okay, if he had paid more attention to diet and his weight was down, yeah, but what ended his career was the bumps he took. And, I mean, you can lift weights and you can run all you want. Those bumps are going to hurt every bit the same. In fact, if anything, it'd be more wear and tear on your body than less.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, in fact, a lot of people say that. You know, the fatter you get, the easier it is to take the bumps.
Yeah, I mean, the dropping of the weight would be easier on your knees and your hips and things like that. That's true if he kept his weight down, but
not on your head.
Yeah. Do you know where Giant Silva is? Yes, we watch him every Tuesday night.
He's in Mexico.
He's in Mexico for EMLL.
You know, I've decided that Giant Silva is pretty damn impressive. I mean, he is nowhere near what I would call a good worker, but he goes in there and he doesn't really look like an embarrassment.
He is so weird to watch because, you know, part of it, I mean, he's actually a lot bigger than the Big Show. I mean, a lot bigger. But the other thing is he's in there with all those 5'7" guys.
And he looks even taller than ever.
Oh, he looks like a 9-foot monster out there.
And then he does lucha spots. He did he had some dude in a headlock, and I think it was Universo and Cien Caras. I can't remember who it was, but he had him in a headlock and jumped up in the air, wrapped his legs around the other dude's head, and took them both over. And I went, oh my God, that was a lucha spot. Yeah, he did a high cross off the top. This 8-foot man.
Yeah. Let's see. It would be. He goes. Any idea where he is? Well, I guess we just told you where he is. Let's see. Who, in your opinion, was the greatest female pro wrestler? The greatest. Manami Toyota. Did you see Low-Key? I didn't see Low-Key. Let's see. I have a question about the chair shots Mick Foley took from The Rock. Did Mick Foley indicate The Rock should keep hitting him with the chairs, or did The Rock go overboard and let the heat of the moment take over? The heat of the moment took over. They were supposed to do 5. I think they ended up doing about 9 or 10. And
the whole thing was they had to finish in the aisle, and there were like 5 chair shots while they were still in the ring. So
the other part of it too is Mick Foley miscalculated, and because he had never been handcuffed and taken a chair shot and didn't realize that it hurt so much more. You know, you can't brace yourself as well, so the chairs hurt way worse than usual. Let's go to Jim in Florida. Jim, what's going on?
Scott.
Oh, Scott, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing really good.
I want to talk about Iron Sheik in the Olympics. No, just kidding.
Okay.
I want to talk about. Oh, first I want to say I found the Mummy 2 kind of amusing.
Mm-hmm.
It was amusing in a
kind of fun,
messed up way.
Well, I mean, it was kind of fun to watch. I mean, I agree that the special effects were. I mean, you got to think special effects were awesome as far as computer animation point of view. But I mean, like, it just looks so fake, Like,
well, it's just like if you watch Jurassic Park, you want to believe that these are real dinosaurs. You don't want to see Barney out there or some cartoon. It just looks totally hokey and fake.
Yeah, like the thing at the end, like I had heard previous to seeing it that, Brendan Fraser and The Rock hadn't met till, a month ago, right? And the last scene where they fight, it was, computer animated. And I'm like, wow, how do they do this? These two people are fighting and haven't even met each other. Then I see the movie, it's not even The Rock,
Yeah, it's not even his head.
Basically, it's like a fake head. I'd say the graphics in most of the video games were better than that, as far as, looking like The Rock. Anyway, I wanted to basically talk about the Perry Saturn situation.
Okay.
And I just thought, you guys, I think, are taking it pretty lightly. I thought it was, horrible. As far as just like, because, I mean, Mike Bell's a local guy, and, I know him, and he gets a lot of shots as far as, doing local stuff for WWF, right? But they've never, picked him up or anything, right? And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, this guy doesn't want to fight back because, this is a shot.
Well, you're not supposed to fight back when you're in Hanson.
Yeah, I mean, Saturn was unprofessional, but I didn't see it as being the equivalent of, like, Rick Steiner and Conan.
Well, I mean, fighting back, not necessarily, like punching him back, but I mean, at least blocking. It's not even like he put up like his arms or anything. He just took these shots in the face, and then it looked like he had gotten swatted at and got knocked in the face, and when he got thrown over, he wasn't like in a mental state where he could cradle his fall.
I think a better way to compare it would be, in fact, this is what a lot of people said, Rick Steiner and Kiwi. Because Rick Steiner was brutalizing this guy, but Kiwi was doing everything like it was a worked match. Whereas with Conan, Rick Steiner's just taking this guy down and not letting him do anything and being completely unprofessional.
And the thing is that I can't picture Mike Bell. Did Mike Bell say anything to anyone in the back, or did they just judge it by seeing it?
I think when he came through, well, first of all, they saw it, and also when he came through, he was already getting welts, so I think they realized that those were potato shots.
Yeah, but it's not like I don't think do you think Mike Bell actually complained?
I have no idea if he did or he didn't. I would actually bet that he didn't too. I would bet he wouldn't,
but I don't think he did because I mean, that's just not the kind of position that a guy like that would get in.
A guy like that, who wants to come back, wouldn't complain. Yeah.
And didn't Jim Ross just tell Scott Steiner this stuff isn't welcome in WWF? We're not going to tolerate any of it. And then within the same week, we had Perry Saturn being sent home not for this, but for neck problems.
Yeah, but he was told that it's not going to be tolerated as well. They're not going to. If Perry, you know what I mean? It's not going to be tolerated there. Like. Yeah,
the thing is in WWF, if they give you a warning and you do it again, you actually will be fired and not given a title.
Not given a world title, right? Like in WCW.
And by the way, guys, this Sunday on pay-per-view, we are going to see two dogs humping in the women's title match.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
All right, I'll let you guys get some more calls.
Okay. This is, how
about Lassie and Road Dogg on pay-per-view? That's to a very small portion of the audience.
How did the guy who stabbed Bruiser Brody get out of going to jail? The verdict was that it was self-defense. An amazing verdict there, wasn't it, though?
Yes.
It's from Jeff, who says, I'm not sure that this is a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. But ever since you sounded off about the callers, the quality of the show has gone way up.
Al could tell you some really funny stories about today in particular.
Oh, yes. I could, but we won't.
Have you seen the Gilbert Ivell-Dan Henderson fight from last year? Yes, I did. It was a pretty good fight. I was surprised because I thought that Gilbert Ivell was going to kill Dan Henderson, and Dan Henderson beat him. So it's again, who
knows?
It's so hard to predict. Let's see. Let's go to Jim. Jim, you're up next.
Sean.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey.
Sean.
It's going pretty well. Hey, I've been watching a couple IWA King of Deathmatch tournaments lately, and I found them kind of interesting. So, can you guys recommend anything?
What do you mean?
As far as death matches?
Yeah.
I mean, the deathmatch tournament, the Mick Foley was in that everyone talks about. That's like kind of the peak of all that. I mean, the stuff now that everybody, the real wild stuff now in Japan is the Big Japan stuff, which to me, I mean, I just cringe watching a lot of it because it's just guys that I think are going to kill themselves, although I guess they haven't yet.
Yeah, I heard about that CCW tape where the guy got his back all cut up or whatever, or his arm.
Oh, that was a tape, all right.
That's cool. I just started watching him, and I don't know, just starting to get into him. So, one more thing, and I'll let you guys go. Some of these callers are right, man. The main events for the WWF shows, especially on Raw lately, just been terrible. I mean, it's just every, Kane, Undertaker, Rikishi. I don't see those guys in the main events. They're so boring. And it's not even, the matches suck. The guys barely have a personality, and I mean, even the crowds. Like 6 months ago, those guys were going apeshit when the Undertaker came out. Now it's just, it's just not there anymore.
It's because he's actually had to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Sting. They went crazy for Sting, and he never wrestled. Then all of a sudden he wrestled, and it was like, this guy's not very good.
Yeah. I mean, now the microscope's on you when you're in, the focal point. It's a lot easier to be kind of in the side. I don't know why.
Undertaker works hard and everything, and for a big guy, he actually really is agile, and he can do some stuff. But the whole thing is you got to compare it to the whole mid and undercard, and these guys just blow him away.
I mean, but also you got to remember we had 3 months of Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit and Hunter and Steve Austin week after week in some combination in main events, and then there were a couple of other guys in that mix as well. Jericho was in there a little bit too. And now we're left with this, and it's just an incredible letdown. And Rock, of course, because Rock had a hell of a lot of great main events in that same period. And now you look at the thing tonight, and it's like, oh God, not again. Because that's how I feel right now. Okay, let's go to Thurston. Thurston, what's going on?
Hey, first time caller. Great show, guys. I just want to ask a quick question. I got a good friend. He's over in Japan right now, and I want him to go find me a tape. And I am totally ignorant to Japanese wrestling. I just wondered if you guys had any suggestions of things that I could tell him to look for.
God, there's just so much.
Some TV.
Just
tape some TV.
Just tape the TV shows.
I mean, as far as like big shows, good big shows, I mean, you can get them here.
Yeah. Oh, really?
It's fine. The tape trader. They're all over the internet.
Yeah, tape trader. Yeah,
they got everything.
Anything from Japan.
The only thing you can really get from Japan right now is stuff that just happened that he can tape on TV and send to you.
Oh, okay.
Everything else is pretty much around.
Yeah, you can go on the websites and everything that do Japanese tapes. You can get tapes of pretty much anything from Japan now. Easy.
Okay, where's a good place to start with any of those tapes then?
You mean it depends on your cup of tea. What kind of wrestling do you like?
I really want more technical the better. I mean, everything.
Do you want reels? Do you want real or worked real or?
I've heard a lot about. I always loved every time I saw Jushin Liger when his
New Japan
appearances.
New Japan Junior Heavyweights then.
Yeah.
And Tori Human. Yeah, you probably really
early Benoit stuff.
There's all that stuff in the 90s in New Japan.
Super J Cups.
Super J Cups. You'll probably like Tori Human house shows. They're very good. Early Michinoku was really good with a lot of the flying. Even now, some of the Michinoku's very good. So that's
AAA minis. I just want to throw that in there.
AAA minis, they're awesome.
And those minis are so awesome.
Yep.
You never see anybody list those minis when they're talking about, who's a real great worker and everything like that. Octagon Cito is so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you very much. That's all I need to know.
Maybe some of the women, too. Gaia and All Japan Women. I just watched, All Japan Women, last TV show. That was a lot of... it's just they work really hard. The heat's fantastic. It's like, I'm watching going God, this is... what more do you want out of wrestling? Super moves, Mm-hmm. Toyota, she's doing the same stuff she did, years ago. She's like Ric Flair. She's a miracle.
One of those miracles, yeah.
Okay, one more caller. Who is it?
Mr. St. Laurent. You're on the air.
Okay,
right.
Thank you. I want to talk about the Buddy Rogers, San Martino thing real quick.
Yes.
Buddy Rogers definitely had a stroke before that match. And
a stroke before the match? Okay, tell me why. I'm not doubting you because... Buddy Rogers wrestled sparingly after that match. I always assumed that there must have been something wrong because you don't go from being the world champion, losing in 48 seconds, and then disappearing for 3 years.
That's why it was a stroke. And the reason Bruno denies it is he always keeps kayfabe. And since Buddy was the heel, it was supposed to be the heel's just making up an excuse. So that's the reason for that. Also, real quick, I was on the Vince McMahon conference call in the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to point out, he's done a total 180 as far as the media is concerned. He's very professional. He was very, very good with the media. I think he definitely improved his image. And lastly, I want to talk
So he learned his lesson?
Yeah,
he learned his lesson. No, he learned his lesson, yeah.
And lastly, I want to talk about Ray Gonzalez and the Universal Championship. No, I'm just kidding. All right, later, guys.
Nice try, buddy.
I don't mind talking about Ray Gonzalez. I haven't seen tapes of WWC in a long, long time. We are totally out of time, and so we will be back. Of course, the rest of this week, Wednesday, we're going to have Frankie Kazarian. Thursday, we're going to have Frank Shamrock. And Friday, we're going to have Les Thatcher. And tomorrow, we'll be talking about Raw, and we'll be catching up on all the emails. So we'll see you all tomorrow at 5.